Good afternoon. Welcome to the July meeting of the Rehoboth Beach Board of Adjustment. I don't need to do a roll call. The entire board is here. Thank you. Public notice. Today we have one case to hear. Our rules require that owners of properties within 200 feet of the property in question are notified of the variance request. Marco, was the meeting and public notice properly posted and the public notified?
Mr. Chairman, the city verifies that this meeting and the matters before the board were properly noticed as follows. The agenda for the Board of Adjustment regular meeting was posted at City Hall and on City Portal on July 16th, 2026. Regarding case number 0526-04 for the property located at 37 Virginia Avenue, Unit B. The public notice was posted at City Hall and on the City Portal on July 1st, 2026. The public notice was published in the Cape Gazette on July 7th and July 10th, 2026, and in the Delaware State News on July 6th and July 8th, 2026. Written notification of this case was mailed to all property owners of record within 200 feet of the subject property, and the required signage was posted on the property itself. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the reading.
Okay, and I will ask, Units A and Unit C also received the notification?
Correct, I apologize.
All right, thank you. I noticed we did receive correspondence from the public. Did the board members get a chance to read it? And Marco, any late emails come in today?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and I will say that all of the letters were in support of the variance requests. And I don't believe there are any minutes to approve, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And notice of decision, I know there's one being circulated around and another one we're taking a look at, but nothing to, no additional ones to be approved, just the one today, right?
I mean, if you wanted to make a motion, you could move for case number 0925-10 to be issued. Isn't that the right one?
That's Newcastle Street.
Oh,
Did
no,
you mean,
that's the
you want
wrong one.
North, you want?
Yeah, I
North?
already turned it in.
Okay, then it's approved. All right, thank you. All right, today's case involves a request for relief of the city zoning code through multiple area variances. The board will apply the quick check factors that Delaware law recognizes as guidance for Board of Adjustments. Pursuant to Section 270-74 of the City Zoning Code, the Board of Adjustment is authorized to grant variances that are not contrary to the public interest if a literal interpretation of a code regulation will result in an exceptional practical difficulty to the owner, so that the spirit of the zoning ordinance is observed, provided that such relief may be granted without substantially impairing the intent of the code. For an area variance, under Delaware law, an applicant for an area variance must prove that the zoning requirements create an exceptional practical difficulty. To determine whether an exceptional practical difficulty exists, the board must weigh the following four factors. 1, the nature of the zone where the property lies. 2, the character and use of the immediate vicinity. 3, whether removal of the restrictions on the applicant's property would seriously affect neighboring properties and their uses. And finally, 4, whether failure to remove the restrictions would create an exceptional practical difficulty for the owners in relation to the owner's efforts to make normal improvements to the property. This standard is satisfied only when the difficulties alleged by the owner are practical rather than theoretical, and exceptional rather than routine. Everyone who wishes to speak today will be required to give their testimony under oath. I will ask our counsel, Mr. Townsend, to administer the oath. And just some administrative items. We don't have a court reporter, so when minutes need to be created, the city will have to go through these through our recording. So please, only one conversation at a time. Speak directly into the microphone. And if there's any crosstalk, we will stop. Just quiet it down and we'll move on. Also, in addition, occasionally you will see members of the board using electronic devices. They're not communicating with anyone, they're just looking at diagrams. And I want to look up, is anyone in the public wishing to speak today? No? Okay, thank you. All right. Since there's no one finishing, after our presentations from the city and the applicant, the board will close down the public portion of the meeting, and we will debate among ourselves about the variances. And I think that's it. Corey, I want to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this report, and to make it easier on everyone, I'll give my report from the podium so I can zoom in on the plans.
Please, yeah.
Okay, this is case number 0526-04 for 37 Virginia Avenue, Unit B. Applicant is Waterside Properties Incorporated, care of John and Amy Caden, trustees of the John and Amy Caden Joint Revocable Trust. They'll be represented today by Mackenzie St. Clair, Esquire of Saul Ewing LLP. There are 4 variances being requested today. I'll go through each one of them and detail why I did the calculations the way I did. And if there's any questions, please feel free to ask me while we're on that page. Not to wait until the very end, but you can ask questions while we're moving along. The first thing I'd like to state is that due to the definitions in our zoning code of lot and gross lot area as well as floor area ratio, this entire property has to be viewed and recognized as one parcel of land. So any of the calculations that were made were with respect to that. There is the nature of request and application background information as needed. I'd be happy to answer any questions afterwards about those, but I'd really like to get into the analysis. And it's all detailed in the report, but I'm going to move to the plan so we can take a look at those so we have a bit more of an illustrative example of what this shows. And the first is going to be lot coverage and natural area. I'll then talk a little bit about building setbacks, followed by, well, there is no building height or elevation variances. Staff verified that for this, so we will not be going over that. Floor area ratio, and the final one, off-street parking. So moving to the lot coverage in a natural area, these can be primarily seen on, I'm going to go through the existing versus the proposed. And the existing is on sheet VAR 5, right down here. There are 2 types of,
Page 21.
correct.
I think it's page 21, right, Corey, of the packet.
Yes, this is all under my building inspector's
Right,
report,
right.
under Exhibit A. And this is, yes, perhaps page 21, sheet VAR 5, sheet 5 of 8. These are color-coded to, just for clarity. Rehoboth Beach defines lot coverage as anything and everything essentially other than sidewalks and driveways, obviously not natural area. So those structures that are colored orange are the lot coverage. Under the existing conditions between the 3 structures and their associated secondary structures, such as decks and retaining walls and sheds, equal 40.2%. That's a little bit over what the city would allow. 40% is the maximum allowed on parcels within the R1 and R2 district. This is in the R2 district. Driveways and walkways are at 12.9%. They're not necessarily spelled out in our zoning code. It's just that a lot must maintain a minimum of 50% natural area and a maximum of 40% lot coverage, and any remaining square footage can be used for sidewalks and driveways. Under the current conditions, the natural is shy of the 50%. It's at 46.9% here. And the front yard area is also, here's the front yard, as this is the lesser of the 2 on Virginia Avenue, and the yard in question that 37 Virginia, the Unit B here fronts. Here's the 10-foot on both sides show the front yard. It's well under it's also under the 50%. These are the existing conditions. 1 page up to the VAR 4, sheet 4 of 8, you can see the proposed conditions as far as lot coverage and natural area go. Lot coverage now is at 39.8%, under the 40% minimum, which is code compliant. I'm going to skip over the driveway and walkways. The natural area has now risen to 50.4%. And the driveway, walkways is shown to be just under 10%, which is typical for what we see in Rehoboth for residential construction. The reason why you don't see the front yard natural area in this one is because it's on one sheet further up, which was specifically made just for the natural area of the front yard, which is on sheet VAR 3, sheet 3 of 8. And here it's calculated as 63.46%. Much of that coming from the reduction of the sidewalk, concrete sidewalk in this area, as well as the removal of the full paved driveway in favor of the drive strips. The second variance request comes from the building setbacks. Typically, in R1 and R2 districts, you'll see a 6-foot minimum, a 16-foot aggregate, and we have a quotient rule for those lots that are greater than 52.5 feet in width, or lots that exceed 5,250 square feet. However, the aggregate for that quotient rule is only for R1 uses. R1 uses only allow for single-family detached dwellings. On this property, all three of these units, all three of these buildings are two-family dwellings. And because of that, on the setbacks, you'll see a 10-foot side yard setback. And due to this being a corner lot, there is another 10-foot side yard setback. That is a minimum that must be on which the side fronts. So this makes an aggregate of 20 feet, which is what the code prescribes for the setback. Therefore, the proposed construction, as can be seen on sheet VAR 2, is well within the 10-foot setback as shown here. 11.86 was the minimum of the house inside the side yard. There is no rear yard setback. It's much further back on the parcel. The house is nowhere near the other side yard setback adjacent to First Street, which leaves us with the front yard setback, which is what the variance is asking for 270-24 building setback lines. In a typical R1 district, the building setback is 15 feet for the front yard, and a 5-foot allowance is given to open front porches. In an R2 district, which this is, that's not the case. It's 10 foot, and that's it. So you can have a house that comes up to be 10 feet, or you can have a front porch that comes to within 10 feet, but you can't go further than that. So the two variances requests, and this piggybacks onto under the special provisions of the zoning code 270-42, structures in required yard area, that says it, well, in addition to the front porch being in the front yard setback, you can only have steps that go additionally 24 inches into the setback as well. Seeing that the proposed front yard porch right here leaves only 5.46 feet, the steps that would come out are also require a variance, which is why those two sections are in. And on page 4 of my building inspector report, you can see that a relief would be roughly 4.54 feet, as that is the amount of the front yard porch that goes into the setback, and then adding in the 24 inches, taking that into account, and going with the steps that we can see in an illustration on, pardon me, it's up here. This is the second page, again on
There are 4, maybe?
VAR 2 of the proposed for Unit B. This is the proposed house. There are 3 treads. So that would be roughly 5.6 feet beyond the 270-42 allowance. As I said, there's no variance required for the building height. which leads us to the floor area ratio. I'll talk about the two other properties that are not within the scope of this variance first, as their numbers do not change, but they do set the stage for what the existing conditions of the parcel are. And it's important to remember that the entire size of this parcel doesn't change. It is 17,793, so 7 short of 18,000 square feet. And we'll base everything off of that denominator.
Right.
So towards the end of the plans, after the lot coverages, we can take a look at Unit B first, which is, we'll take a look at Unit A, which is the property that is on the direct corner of First Street and Virginia Avenue. And again, just as lot coverage, I use orange for floor area ratio. And for this, you can see there's a first floor, a second floor, and a third floor. Those equal a total of 3,111. This is about 3 square feet difference between that and the engineer. And this is to be expected on properties where you're doing entire houses, a tolerance of a few square feet, just from sizing and scaling. The reason why some of the portions of the third floor aren't included is that those portions are less than 6 feet 8 inches, similar to a Cape Cod kind of style. Unit C is the one that is closer to the lake in the bridge, the one with the yellow siding here. This one has 2 units that were broken out between the two. And on the calculations for both units, the first one was 847 for the first floor, 720 for the second floor. The other dwelling unit was 2,349, yielding a total of 3,916. Check that against the engineer's calculations, 3,918. We're 2 square feet off. So again, general acceptable tolerances due to scaling. Those are the 2 units. I'll move just to the existing Unit B. And for this, we are including the basement as it is habitable. And it's in my report, but they are not eligible for the 1,000 square foot credit due to the fact that the remaining of the structures does not comply with condition 3 of that subsection. So therefore, we didn't bring up the 1,000 square foot basement credit at all in this report or neither in their variance request.
But I thought, excuse me for interrupting, but I thought that was also being observed in the mathematics, right?
No, and this is the reason why we delayed the hearing from
Okay.
last month to this month.
Okay,
To clear
thank you.
that issue up.
I'll hold, okay.
With that, the basements fully count in both the existing and proposed because it's one single lot, and the math just doesn't work. They're not eligible for that exclusion. So they have an 854 square foot current basement. Both ground level and second floor are 1,048 square feet, and we have to take into account the 587 square foot deck as the area underneath that deck exceeds 6 feet 8 inches currently. So with all of that combined, the total for the floor area ratio existing associated with Unit B is 3,537, which is what the engineer calculated. The proposed floor area ratio, and this is a comparison of the size of the house, is up here on VAR 2, page 2 of 8, closer to the top of the plans. You'll notice a slightly larger basement of 1,020 square feet. And in the report, that goes to show, this is on page 5, the tables are calculated as a comparison. That's an increase of 166 square feet. That will remain, though, the footprint of the exterior walls of the house above. The first floor and second floor both reduced somewhat in size. The original was 1,048 square feet. These two are reduced to 1,020 square feet each. The deck, which was 587 square feet, is now reduced in size. Over here, you can see this, it looks to be 326 square feet. And one of the things that we checked in the review was that the clearance below, from the grade to the bottom of the joists of the deck will be less than 6 feet 8 inches. So per code, zoning code, that's not included in FAR. What that leads to parcel wide, if we take the same 17,793, we have a FAR relief requested. The aggregate existing, 10,566 square feet. The proposed, 10,087 square feet. So the FAR relief requested, the proposed FAR will be 3,249 square feet, which would be over the allowance, the allowable limit for the lot. And again, that's on page 5, the FAR relief requested. That leads us to the last portion of the variance request, the fourth one, which is off-street parking. For our off-street parking code, each dwelling unit requires 2 off-street parking. This one's a bit simpler in its math. The proposed shows here 2 off-street parking spaces. And this is what the house currently, the 2-family dwelling currently has, and this is what the proposed is. So the variance relief would be for the other 2 parking spaces for the 2-family dwelling. And that concludes the numbers and the plans. One of the things that I'll just say in consideration for your deliberation today, although staff doesn't make a recommendation to approve or deny the variance request, I did want to read the last paragraph I put in the report on page 6. Should the board grant any or all of the requested variances, staff notes for administrative consistency that relief be framed by reference to the record documents, the Axiom Engineering LLC variance site plan sheets VAR 1 through VAR 8, revision 3, dated June 18th, 2026, and the staff verified calculations in this report, together with any conditions the board attaches, will provide a fixed basis for permit review. Where the revised plan labels conflict internally, staff's independently verified figures will control, consistent with the treatment applied throughout this report. That ends my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Certainly. Thank you, Corey. I'll start out. Who would like to start with questions?
I will,
Okay.
if you like. Thank you first, Corey, for this amazing report. So much detail and information for us. It's just it's just absolutely excellent. It's a wow. And thanks, please, to all the staff for the efforts that everybody must have put in to put all of this together. So the property, as we know it, is the entire A, B, and C plot that we've looked at. Can a variance, and maybe you don't know this answer, can a variance be applied to only one unit in a property?
My understanding is that the variance applies to the structure.
To the structure on the property?
On the property. But for instance, in building and licensing, if there's a variance and they remove that structure, then they no longer have the variance. It's as more than 50% of it will have been removed, but it's tied to that structure.
Okay.
Would we make it a condition of a variance approval? In other words, just to be explicit.
Well, I mean, Corey just read to us that last paragraph,
Right.
and that any relief that we give to the applicant is going to be restricted to the plans that were submitted, which don't include reference to the other units.
Good, thank you.
So hypothetically, a variance can be applied to one unit of these 3 and not to the others, hypothetically. Under condition.
Hypothetically and in every other way.
Right. Okay. And could you quickly define, Corey, an improvement-only assessment record? I'm not familiar with that term. Improvement-only assessment record. That was listed on your, let's see, page. I think I'm guessing I know what it is. It's on your page 2, the second to bottom note. County and city treat the property as single parcel, blah, blah, blah. The third line with 3 improvement-only assessment records.
Correct.
I've never heard that term before. I'm just,
That comes from county records.
okay,
So that's Sussex County
Okay.
records. There is a parent parcel, and there's 3 assessment records.
okay.
That's normally tax
For
assessment.
taxes, okay. So that doesn't affect anything we're doing today?
No.
I'd always like to ask rather than assuming. Let's see. Is there anything at all that has to be considered about units A and C in making our Unit B decision, other than the facts that you've entered here?
I view them as outside the scope of this
Okay.
variance.
Okay. Let's see. You mentioned that the basement was 40%, 50% buried. I understand what that means. How does that affect your thinking, your office, or does it affect us in some way that I'm not aware of?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Yeah, that was another revision that the city had the applicant do. After the basement ordinance, we put in place a bit more detailed definition of what basements are. And
Okay.
so that the aggregate area of all exterior walls, at least 50% or more, have to be below grade. So the applicant provided those calculations for us.
So it does meet that because it's
Yes.
50%
That was
or
one
more.
of the
Okay.
things that we had to
Thank
do.
you so much for the clarification.
Can I ask a basement question?
Of
since we're
course.
on that side? Yeah, I'm very familiar with a lot of the properties around Lake Girard, and those that have basements typically have sump pumps that go 24 hours a day. And I know that after the house across the street was built, when they took down the trees and cut the property, did all the kind of stuff, that I understanding it, that your house had water kind of going down. The city doesn't have curbs, nor does it have drains, and that caused a lot of damp wetness in the basement. And I'm wondering how, I mean, it's not any of my business if you get a variance, but I'm just curious because we have so many people bordering Lake Girard who have issues with their basements. So that's not, okay, never mind, I should have.
I would say that would be part of the construction plans review. This lot is over 5,000 square feet. So we would send this to Sussex Conservation District to look at. The city would also look at
Okay.
that, but those would be part of that stormwater review.
Okay,
after
thank
the
you,
zoning.
because I know that in the past, the city has approved, including the one across the street, without ever going to Sussex Conservation, changing the flow of water on the land. I'm glad to see that you're doing that. So, thank you.
Anything else?
No, I know, I just had I have
Have a
more
few more.
basement issues, but, I mean, I have basement, but I have other questions, but I'll wait till you're finished.
Okay, thank you. So if any variances end up being given by this board to Unit B, how does that affect, or does it affect, going forward, the status of Units A and C? Are there issues about which we are not aware or haven't dealt with before?
Sure. So I would,
Thank
I would again reference the last paragraph in the report, and one that Fred seconded. The report shows that those, and the support documents in this whole variance case shows that units A and C are not part of the variance request.
Right.
Those numbers are not affected by anything, nor do any of the proposed changes entail either of those properties. So if any one of those properties were to ever make any future improvements, we would look at them through the same lens as this one.
I see. And the reason, as you know, I contacted Marco yesterday, and he was kind enough to respond to me this morning, because I thought that I maybe had missed the fact that there was the revised drawings 18 June 20 to 26 in the agenda. I saw the applicant cover stuff, I saw the Mackenzie's presentation, but I couldn't identify those because every single drawing has a date on it from Axiom of 5/19/2026. And so that's why I thought maybe I'd missed something, maybe the PDF didn't include it. So that's why I had asked Marco about that this morning, and I think he checked with you, because Marco wrote back to me and said, they're there and they're this and that. So I knew the pages then. But what makes those different from some of the drawings in the earlier part of that 105-page PDF that we were looking at?
I'm going to point to Exhibit F.
Okay,
Exhibit F were the plans, and as you can see on the
Yeah.
plans here, let me go to the date down here. Every plan has a date of when it was created and any revisions that were done along the way.
Okay.
Under the original submission, Exhibit F, the plans are under 6.2.
okay,
There was the revision when we discussed the setbacks. At first, it was thought, and that's what these three really entail, that the aggregate quotient rule applied, but then it was determined that this is an R2 use, not an R1 use.
Right.
So that was the first revision. The second one was when we asked for the basement calculations for the 50%. 6.2, and I believe that's the one June 2nd that's dated in Exhibit F. The revisions, what you see before you today in a separate attachment, are June 18th, which is when we asked them to revise FAR calculations because of the 1,000 square foot basement credit.
right. But these pages that Marco referenced, which were in the packet all along, pages 71 to 78, those are the June 20th or a
I
June 18th.
believe if you look on the, you might have to use a magnifying glass on
I
that
always
8.5
bring
by
one to this
11,
meeting.
But I believe the dates on that are the June 2nd one, and the revision is June 18th.
Over in the corner.
Correct.
Oh, I see. So the date of the actual drawing is still over here on this.
That'll
this
be the
plot,
giveaway.
5/19, that's the original date, and then the revisions, I see now. Okay, thank you for the clarification, I was unsure about that. In our information, we're told that both A and C are duplexes, and so I assume that they are, and that each of them has two rental licenses that are valid. From what I understand, this applicant wants to build another duplex in this for B, that this is a two-family.
Correct.
also.
Per our zoning code, I'd ask we use our terminology, a two-family
Family,
dwelling.
okay, a two-family. But does it currently have rental licenses? That wasn't mentioned that I saw in any of the,
I know it still has one. It doesn't have any, but as far as the rental licenses or the licensure goes, that's tied to a conforming use.
right.
Not necessarily a setback or an area. And by right, in an R2 district, two-family dwellings, semi-attached, attached dwellings are allowed per square footage of those uses.
Right.
And in the R2 district, a two-family dwelling is required to have a minimum square footage of 5,000 square feet. This entire lot, although there are lease arrangement lines, LCEs, we don't recognize them in our zoning code. That's something that's private. That has no bearing on anything that we look at. This has almost 18,000 square feet. So per that section of code, they are, permitted use is to have up to 3 two-family dwellings, which
Okay.
would be 15,000 square feet.
Okay. So essentially, from what I'm reading, because of the FAR number that's in violet to start with A and C, they couldn't build a shed if they demolished the building there. They couldn't build a 3-by-3 foot anything right there because we're already way over the FAR, even with A and C.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Without a variance, of course. I think that was all that I had for you. Thank you for always your excellence, Corey, and I appreciate your answers.
Thank you.
Rick, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. A very good report, Corey. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan?
Yeah, all my last questions. Is the city considering because of the way the water flows from, above this property down, is the city considering adding curbs and drains to, there are no curbs. I'm not correct there. Yeah, there are no curbs. I'm very familiar because I walk by it almost every day. So there are no curbs there, and there's no drains. So when the water flows down, there's nowhere to go except in this house.
The short answer is yes. If this variance is successful, they construct a new two-family dwelling, the city would look at that, and we would work with the property owner and his design team
Okay.
to make sure that those elements are reduced as much as they can be within practical reason.
Okay, yeah, because, most places that have sidewalks have curbs. Can't remember any other place in the city where there's a sidewalk, but there's no curb, it just flows from the street and, across the sidewalk. So, anyway, that was, and I had sent you an email asking some other questions. I guess you've answered some of them in this and that, because I remember when the house on the corner of First and Virginia was remodeled, the one that has a swing in the front yard. And I've been here a long time, so it could have been a long time ago. I don't remember when, I just remember it. And so if they remodeled without changing the footprint of what's there, then all they needed was a building permit. Is that correct?
Correct. I looked into the property records. The house, as we see it, 33 Virginia, which is this one right here, if that's the one you're talking
Is
about.
that the blue one?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
That one was approved by the city April 1st, 2011. It
I
was
do remember.
completed
Good.
Sounds right.
March 30th, 2012, and in the specific, under the permit conditions, the expansion into setbacks was prohibited and expansion of FAR was prohibited. That would have limited them to simply work as interior alterations and maybe
Oh, okay.
windows, siding,
All
and
Yeah, because it
re-roofing.
had new siding and stuff on. And the one that's practically in the lake, I don't remember. I know the person who lived there because she was a friend of my friend's, but it was a long, long time ago.
Those ones spanned 1967 to 1990, primarily with the permit
Yeah.
range of additions.
Yeah, because okay, I don't remember the 1990, but 1967, I was not here. So, okay, thanks, Corey.
Thank you. Is that it, Jan?
That's it,
All right,
yeah.
Bill, any questions?
I have one question, and do want to say that, terrific report.
Yes.
Really, you should go to law school.
Excellent. I don't know how he finds the time.
Don't encourage him to leave.
Oh, yeah, that's why we need more lawyers on this board. The one question I have is on the front setback. And we denied one, or denied a variance on Lake Avenue where I live on a neighbor, because they had alternatives. Are there any alternatives here, Corey, that, to either reduce or eliminate the building in the setback?
We discussed that. That is something, and I'll let the applicant answer that in more detail. But that was something that we went over. I don't want to speak for them, other than that was something that we discussed, a possible recessment into the porch of the steps. What you're seeing here is, and then this is the proposed. What we looked at is the proposed versus what exists now, and under the next page is how it currently exists. And so based off of that, I believe it was accepted that to keep it roughly within the same footprint of what's there now, to try to minimize any impact, because there will be, it's a significant slope. And where the building's at in relationship to the other buildings on the property, again, I don't want to speak for them, but that was taken into consideration. And there was some thought, and if there is still some thought, I suggest, if the applicant would like to answer, if there's alternative methods that they would would be interested in. But we did think about that, but some of the other considerations that came into was the proximity of the driveway, the drop in the slope behind the house to push it back, and where the house currently sits.
Okay, I can ask them when they come up. Thank you.
Could I?
Oh, could I just? then
Let
I-
me let Bill finish. You done?
Oh, yeah, he's.
Yeah, I'm done.
Go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, I just want to say, Corey knows how I feel about banisters and steps. And I don't know if the steps exceed 30 inches, but I was thrilled to see the picture of the banister on them. That you have something to hold on to, because that other house on Lake Avenue still doesn't have banisters. And I think it's critical that we have banisters on the houses in Rehoboth. So, okay, sorry, Rick.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Corey, since Bill brought this up, I was sort of saving my question on this for the applicant, but the house that is across the street on First, the one that was raised up and they put in a basement, don't know if you recall that, it was
Across Virginia.
Oh,
Across
yeah, that
Virginia.
was
Yeah.
it was on the corner first,
on the
the
corner.
opposite corner
yes,
of
the
First in
opposite corner.
Virginia. Yes.
On this area here.
Yeah, it has a pool on the front yard, and it has an illegal
The
fence,
reason why
yes.
I'm bringing that up is it always amazed me how close to the sidewalk the stairs to that house were. And I didn't know whether or not there had been a variance granted in connection with that remodel. I'm only asking that question because, again, it's at least within neighboring properties. So I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of the entire neighborhood and what impact should we grant the variance for the front porch and stairs. I mean, is it that much out of keeping with other homes in the area?
Well, that's a good point to consider, how they would have to, I don't know off the top of my head, that other house, if there was a variance requested for that. I didn't look into that for this one. But if it's in keeping with the local look, you could certainly take that into consideration during your deliberations of the front porch steps.
Thank you, Corey.
I have two small ones.
Can I start?
Can I?
Go ahead, do 'em.
Well, he's always kind enough to go last. He's the, what do they call it, the last batter? What do they call it? The one.
Cleanup hitter.
Cleanup hitter. You're the cleanup hitter. Two things. They could demolish the structure and not do anything without a variance. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
Who would want to do that, but they could, right? The variances are not tied to the demolition.
Correct. If you look at how much the relief of the FAR that is required, on page 5, FAR relief requested 3,249. The FAR of the house is
Doesn't
not
mean it.
that.
Right.
So
Right, why would you do it? But I'm clarifying. And the other question was also about options. And I will be asking the applicant the same thing. Was an option ever presented to you to build a smaller house that met all of the, perhaps a single family, that met all of the, that would not require any variance other than FAR? So, because the parking would be taken care of, and hypothetically, if it was smaller, you could deal with the other items that were, that we need to consider as variance.
there's one other, in addition to the quotient rule of the side yard setback, we'd also have to take a look at 270-23.1, which is in any district, only one single-family detached dwelling with its customary non-habitable building may be erected. And if they put in a single-family house, they would have 4 additional dwelling units. And
Isn't that R1, though, not R2?
that's in all districts.
All districts. Would you say it again,
Any
please?
single-family dwelling, there can only be one single-family dwelling with its customary non-habitable accessory building. This would have a single-family dwelling with 2 additional two-family dwellings on it in a single, in that lot.
Because it's only one lot. It's only one
Right,
lot.
I
So
realize.
it would have to, the other two houses would have to be non-habitable
Oh, I see.
accessory buildings.
Okay, that answers my question. That's everything. Cleanup
Someone
batter
else, no,
goes.
someone else had something.
The cleanup batter.
Jan, did you have anything else?
I was just going to answer Rick's question. The house on Virginia Avenue, the white one with it has a pool at the front yard. And in actuality, my understanding is, from talking to somebody in building and licensing, is that their address is not First Street. Their address is Virginia Avenue. That way they can put a 6-foot fence up, even though the mailbox and everything else is on the front of the house. There's also a 6-foot fence on the side of the house. So I don't know, but it is very strange, that house. So.
Okay, thank you. Corey, have there in the past been any other approved variances on the property or any structures? Any variances that we are carrying that we have to be aware of?
Good question.
There was one, it was from a long time ago, and I don't believe it was granted. I didn't find any actual applications.
Okay.
There was something from, I think, the 1980s, but it was, the property files alluded to it, but I didn't have anything definitive to go
Nothing
off
that's
of.
going to impact us here, I would hope. Okay. And when we started talking about Unit A, I drove by and I said, geez, that house looks relatively modified, upgraded. There are, I assume, an approved application for some kind of remodeling or reconstruction. It makes me go back to the 1990s when I first moved here. I used to see in Rehoboth Beach houses being built with 1 2x4 still standing, and they rebuilt it.
They still do it.
Can that have been where you allowed the owner just to say, remodel it exactly like it is?
No.
And move on?
Not an option.
And which code, and the code says you cannot do that any longer?
That's 27049 and 49.1.
Thank you, because I remember seeing it in the 90s and all of a sudden,
Yeah, if you remove more than
Yeah.
50%.
In the 2000s.
yeah.
It's in the 2000s.
Okay. My one concern was, I know the 1,000 square foot basement thing has been corrected. But what if Unit A or Unit B, and I know we're not here today, does the one that, how would you, I hate to make it hypothetical, but the 1,000 square foot, would you say, okay, you get 333, you get 333, and give these owners 330 square feet, should they have needed it? In other words, that benefit is for the lot.
Correct.
Could C steal it from B, or, I just want to know that we could see something in the future.
In a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Not.
That's correct. I don't think it's needed here today, but you could have given them 333 square foot, maybe, or would you have given 1,000 to A, B, and C, 3,000? It goes crazy as to where this could go, but I thought, okay, maybe they get 333 square feet to their benefit, Just, I don't know how you would handle it, but,
I think I would cross that bridge when that
Yeah,
comes.
okay. And does the R2 designation, not the structure, require the 4 lots, not 2? In other words, if the family built an R1, which is allowed in an R2, does that get 2 spots or 4 spots? Is it the
Talking about parking spaces?
parking? Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
parking.
No, that goes to the dwelling unit, 2 parkings per dwelling, per dwelling.
So if they
or
build
dwelling unit.
R1, they would only need 2.
Correct.
Okay, that's, all right. And, don't need that. Don't need that. The sidewalk on the diagram, it looked like it was outside of the lot picture. Does that come into, from the way the diagram was drawn, it looks like the sidewalk's outside. So am I reading that wrong in that diagram?
Are you looking at sidewalk on First Street?
The sidewalk here?
On Virginia.
On
Virginia.
Virginia?
Yeah, is that part of the lot?
Doesn't look like it.
No, I don't think
Yeah, so does that mess up calculations in any way, shape, or form? Lot coverage or negligible?
That's negligible.
Okay.
And also that might be contestable.
Okay.
For where exactly this where the property is and where the sidewalk
I was going to
actually
say,
is.
I don't see many people will be walking down that Virginia Avenue except the owners of that, of that property, so it didn't bother me. Okay, they were all my questions. Thank you very much. One last
I'm good.
request? Okay. All right, we will, thank you for being patient. We'll turn it over to you. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
All set? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So good afternoon. My name's Mackenzie Sindelar. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Saul Ewing, and I'm here on behalf of my clients, John and Amy Caden, trustees of the John and Amy Caden Joint Revocable Trust, the applicants and owners of 37 Virginia Avenue, Unit B in the city of Rehoboth Beach, being Sussex County tax parcel number 334-14.13-298.00-B. And they are seeking, as Mr. Shinko just summarized, 4 variances. My intention today is to walk through my PowerPoint presentation that I submitted. As Mr. Shinko alluded to, most of the materials we've submitted are accurate. However, some of them were updated, and so we are in agreement with the staff verified calculations as it relates to our presentation, to the materials. That is what we are in agreement with the staff report as it relates to calculations. And I'd also, just before getting into further introductions, like to echo Ms. Herron, that thanking Mr. Shinko. Really a pleasure to work with. This was a really, really tough application, and he met with us multiple times to get to this point, and it is, thank you. It was great, and I agree, the report's excellent, and I don't even need to walk through it. He already has, and like I said, we're in agreement with what it says. So turning to slide 2 specifically, in terms of introductions, my client is with me today. Next to me, Mr. John Caden and his wife, Mrs. Caden, is in the audience with their daughter behind me. The property owner, as we've discussed, is Waterside Properties. And as I'll explain, the Cadens are the owners of one of 3 exclusive lease areas, leasehold interests, which are subject to the property. The applicant's engineer is Kenneth Christianberry of Axiom Engineering, and the contractor, the planned contractor, is Oak Construction, Mr. Purnell. So the applicant has worked with Mr. Christianberry and Mr. Purnell to produce the most recent set of plans, the June 18 plans, which are in the record. If there's any confusion about which plans we're talking about, which pages we're talking about, please stop me. Going to the next slide, slide 3. So in plain speak, we're addressing 4 specific variances related to the Caden home. First, from floor area. Second, from off-street parking. Third, from the building setback line, specifically the front yard. And then 4th, the structures in the front yard. So the need for these variances arises from the fact that the Caden home is in a state of disrepair. After 3 years and significant financial investment exploring alternatives, it has become clear that renovating the home is not feasible. As Mr. Shinko's report explains, because the proposal involves demolition of the home, Section 270-49.1 of the code applies, providing that once a non-conforming structure is demolished, it's deemed abandoned and may not be rebuilt unless the entire structure is made to comply with Chapter 270. Ultimately, rebuilding the Caden home under the current proposal requires 4 variances, which, if approved, will, in comparison to the existing property conditions, reduce the FAR and bring the property into compliance with the natural area, lot coverage, and also the side yard setback requirement. Turning to the next slide, slide 4. The fee interest in this property is owned by Waterside Properties, Inc., and on the property today, as we've discussed, there's 3 2-unit, 2-family dwellings, being 33, 35, and 37 Virginia Avenue. Units A is associated with 33 Virginia, the Caden home, number 37 Virginia being Unit B, and 35 Virginia being Unit C. As the property records confirm, each unit has a designated exclusive lease area, each controlled by its respective owner. And you'll see on the plan that we included the approximate lease areas defined. So stated simply, the water side owns the fee interest in the entire property and is subject to 3 leasehold interests, being Unit A, B, and C leasehold interests. And Mr. Caden, I just want to confirm, beyond the notice that was provided by the city, has also, of course, notified his neighbors of these plans. And we are not aware of any opposition to them. Turning to the next slide, slide 5. From a zoning perspective, this property with the 3 two-family dwellings is treated as one zoning lot, like Mr. Shinko explained, and the property is zoned R2, and it allows for 2-family dwellings. The property contains approximately 17,793 square feet, and it contains 6 units. And like I said, each unit is on its exclusive lease area, and it operates similar to a single-family detached home on individual lots, separately metered for utilities, separate street access, on-site parking, cable service, and lawn care, all separate except for the shared property tax responsibility. But like Mr. Shinko said, that's also split up based off those assessment records I know that Ms. Heron was asking about. And even more unique, this is also technically a corner lot, and so it fronts on Virginia and First Street. But for this purpose, we're looking at least as it relates to the variances from the setback requirements, Virginia being the front. Turning to slide 6. The Cadens acquired their 1/3 interest in the property together with the Unit B improvements through an assignment of lease on July 15, 2020, and they later transferred that interest into trust. That's how the property interest is held today. And as you can see in the picture here, and also in the next several photos, Unit B is next to Unit A and C, and it's to the west, its west neighbor is the city property, Cranberry Park. Next slide. So these are some additional photos from the park and overhead looking down on the property. You'll see it's very private, it's secluded. Next is a street perspective of the home next to Unit A, slide 8. It shows the front of the property specifically. Moving to slide 9. The topographical conditions of Unit B's exclusive lease area really set it apart from every other property and structure on the lot, but also on this property, specifically from Units A and C, making its conditions unique. It's located on a sloping topography, and it's the lowest dwelling facing Virginia. So as you can see from this perspective, just to point out, you'll see the man standing next to the retaining wall there, just to understand how that exactly slopes downward towards Cranberry Park. This structure was built approximately 100 years ago into a depression and sloping landscape that's sometimes referred to as Rehoboth Hill. The existing conditions have led to structural challenges as well as access challenges for repair, which we'll discuss further. Moving to slide 10, specifically on the structural condition of Unit B. So as we've mentioned in our materials and today, the home is structurally unsound. It's built with no footers and outdated balloon framing, posing safety risks and fire hazards. The entire structure is unlevel with a collapsing front porch and noticeable elevation changes throughout. Interior discrepancies include a front room that bows towards the southwest corner, multiple elevation issues in the kitchen and each of the 4 bedrooms, and the basement also shows serious problems given existing conditions with bowed walls and flooding during rain events, like Ms. Conacy mentioned, and varying heights that affect door frame measurements. Slide 11 is just featuring the proposed home's elevation from the front, left, rear, and right. Following that, we'll move into a specific discussion of the variance requests. First, a variance from the combined floor area ratio, then to discuss the parking spaces required, the front yard setback for the proposed porch, and then the other setback request for the encroachment of the steps into the front yard. This, of course, is not in the same order as Mr. Shinko's report, but it's the way that we've put it together. And like I mentioned, we're aligned in staff verified calculations. So if there's any questions that you have as we move through this, please stop me. So slide 13. First, the applicant seeking relief from 270-21B regarding FAR. The allowable FAR is 6,838 square feet. The applicant seeks a variance of 10,087 square feet, again, per Mr. Shinko's report, thereby requesting a variance of 3,249 square feet, reducing the current FAR by 477 square feet, and if granted, bringing the property into more compliance with the code. Ultimately, the allowable FAR is entirely consumed by Unit A and C. So we have already heard some of the board members sort of allude to that, but to be clear, that is the current situation. There's not anything, a shed, anything would require a requested variance, at least from FAR. So next, slide 14 is sheet 2 of the plans. It shows the Unit B FAR calculation specifically. And what I'll highlight from Mr. Shinko's report is that the proposed non-basement countable floor area is 643 square feet less than the existing non-basement countable floor area. The second variance request concerns off-street parking, and if granted, would maintain the status quo of the current parking conditions. So 270-35D of the code requires 2 spaces per unit. Unit B proposes 2 units like its existing conditions, therefore requiring 4 spaces. The applicant seeks a variance of 2 spaces, maintaining the current parking available for Unit B, which is an existing and proposed condition because of the sloping topography, which materially restricts the applicant from having 4 parking spaces on site. Turning to slide 16, the third requested variance is from the building setback lines and specifically the front yard setback. The code requires a 10 feet setback. The proposed porch is 5.46 feet from the front line, and the applicant seeking a variance of 4.54 feet. With the sloping topography again, the buildable footprint is shifted towards Virginia Avenue, resulting in this request. It is the applicant's position that this is a normal improvement in keeping with the character of the area. Related to this request, with the porch comes access steps to the front porch itself. So slide 17, the applicant also seeks separate relief for the proposed steps. The code allows certain features like steps to extend no more than 24 inches, but with the existing topography, the proposed home is proposed towards Virginia in as minimal a way as the applicant believes is practical. With the porch and also these steps in the front yard, like I said, the applicant does believe the proposal is in keeping with the character of the area. 18, the slide just shows additional detail on some of the proposed encroachments into the front yard. Slide 19, transitioning to the specific discussion of the variance criteria. I know that this board understands the quick check criteria. I won't bore you with reading each of them into the record again, but I will instead move to a discussion of the first criteria. So nature of the zone. This property is located in the R2 district where 2-family homes are permitted. And if granted, the Cadens would proceed with the demolition of their home and then rebuilding of their new home that achieves compliance with natural area, lot coverage, and side yard setback requirements, and also reduces the FAR from our perspective and improved condition. Slide 22, character of the immediate vicinity and uses contained therein. The immediate character is residential, consisting of nearby single-family and two-family homes, like what is proposed. And the proposed home, with the variances granted, would be consistent in home style and design of other homes around and also with existing conditions as well. Slide 23, would the variances seriously affect neighboring properties and uses? We believe no. The variances, if granted, will not seriously affect neighboring properties or uses. Practically speaking, not much will change other than the improvements I've discussed, as 3 structures with 2 units in each structure have always been on this property. And this will replace an existing structurally failing and unsafe home with a new home, improving legal compliance with certain code requirements, as has been explained. As it relates to alternatives, I know that some of you have asked about, I will mention too, that the Cadens have explored, from my perspective, every other option. This is truly a like-kind replacement of what's there. It improves the situation, though, at the same time. If they cannot get this done, they are sincerely thinking about selling the unit. I mean, it's gotten to that point. They've spent years on this effort. They've spent years considering alternatives. They've spent a lot of money doing that as well. So this is where they are. This is what's brought them to the table today. And I did want to speak to that. I'm happy to answer more questions about that at the conclusion of my presentation, but I did want to mention that briefly. Turning to slide 24, denying the variances here would impose significant hardship on the applicant, preventing the applicant from demolishing a structurally failing home and then rebuilding one, because the current home cannot be repaired due to existing structural conditions of the home, coupled with unique topographical challenges. From a practical perspective, in our opinion, there's no justification to deny the variance requests. The proposal would enhance code compliance for natural area, lot coverage, and side yard setback requirements, as well as reduce the FAR, and proposes a similar home to what's currently there. Slide 25 walks through some of the alternatives considered that I'd like to discuss in a bit more detail. So before the Cadence got to this point, one of their alternatives that they considered was, of course, repairing the home, lifting the home, establishing a foundation, and consulted with Mr. Davidson of East Coast Structural Movers, who is really the go-to person in this area for this type of work. And it was ultimately concluded that that was not feasible because of current site conditions, structural conditions of the home, and an inability to get equipment to access the particular part of the property that would need to be accessed to accomplish the repairs and remodeling of the home. They also considered, in connection with this, obtaining an easement for construction from the city, which for understandable reasons was not granted, not capable of being obtained. And they really have considered so many options, and all have proved challenging and not practical. And at the end of the day, they are simply looking to demolish their home and rebuild a like-kind structure that's in keeping with the character of the area. So in conclusion, the proposed variances are not only justified, but necessary due to exceptional practical difficulties that render alternative solutions impractical. Each variance request aligns with the established quick check criteria, ensuring compliance with lot coverage, natural area requirements, and side setback requirements. Key points underpinning the applicant's rationale include, first, the unique topographical conditions and structural conditions of the existing home. Second, the evolution of the code over time, given the date of this existing structure and uniqueness of the 3 structures on site. Third, related to this, the existing presence of these homes and units on this R2 zoned lot. And fourth, exceptional practical difficulties posed by the property's topography and access limitations. The applicant's taken measures to ensure that granting these variances will not adversely affect neighboring properties. The proposal represents a thoughtful, responsible, and neighbor-conscious approach that addresses the challenges faced and balances the applicant's needs. So I'll conclude there. Thank you for your time. I know this is a lot to work through. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I want to start down at this end with Bill. Any questions for the
Yeah,
applicant?
just two, thanks, Mackenzie. First, to talk us through the front setback. I raised that issue with Corey. We had a request a few months back on Lake Avenue that we rejected because there were alternatives. So talk about what how you thought through there. And then second, the other question I have is the parking. I do know the street well, as we all do. There's no place to park. So I don't know where the other two people are supposed to park when we give a variance to have a two-family home, and there's I don't know where anybody's supposed to park on that street, to be very honest.
Sure. So as to the first question, I want to have my client respond to you as it relates to that, to the alternatives that were considered or how we got to the point of proposing the porch and steps where they are. As it relates to the parking issue, the Virginia Avenue in and of itself is unique. Those that park there really live there, right? And so this is nothing is changing really in this request. It's that a variance would be granted as a result of needing to demolish and then rebuild. There's not a current parking issue, is my point. And so they are asking to have two spaces. That's what they have now, and they have no current issues with parking as it relates to the two-unit structure that's currently on the property. And I can have my client speak to that too. It's probably best that you hear from him as well on that point. But initially, I did want to respond.
He'll have to be sworn.
Mr. Caden?
Yes.
So would you give us an address for the record? Could be this one, or,
Local address is 37 Virginia Avenue, Rehoboth Beach.
and do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And just as a quick housekeeping matter, your counsel made a number of factual representations during her presentation, and you don't feel the need to correct any of those, do you?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, thank you.
And so specifically, the first question as it relates to the porch and the proposed steps, could you explain for the record some of the decisions that were made that got you to the point of proposing the porch and steps in their current location, and also speak to how that decision ultimately did minimize the encroachments into the setback?
Explaining how we got to the drawings that we got to is like trying to explain a chess match. Each time that we came to the table with a drawing or met with Corey, and for the record, we've been meeting with Corey for probably 3.5, 4 years talking about this project. And we would make a proposal, and then it would invoke a different variance requirement. So specifically to the porch steps, if we were to push the house back, then we'd be closer to our neighbor. And that wouldn't be, we were very cognizant of the location of the house and trying to keep the house in its same general area.
That would be Unit C, the one that's on the
Unit C,
lake.
the yellow house behind. So we would, if we moved back, not only would we be closer, construction could impact a heritage tree. It's described in one of the drawings. I believe it's a 48-inch round, 100-plus year tree. It's described specifically because of one of our other things that we did. Mike, the city arborist, had to come out and inspect the property and basically define that tree as a heritage tree. So if we push back, we impact the tree, or we're closer to the neighbor. So we didn't think that was a good idea. So it also, with the slope, it's two-dimensional, which you see if you go on the street is at least 30 inches higher than the sidewalk. And we describe it as the bottom of basically a Rehoboth Hill. I've heard it described here when someone was building they wanted to put a shed in their backyard, and someone, I believe it was you, Janet, described it as, oh, you're on a Rehoboth Hill. But anyway, notwithstanding, that's kind of like we need steps to get up to the house, and if we build it low, then we risk first floor flooding versus only basement flooding. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's our only alternative. Does that answer the question?
Yeah,
I've gone round and round. I mean, at the end of the day, we've looked at everything, and this chess match got us to, can we keep it in the same place?
Okay.
And then as it relates to parking, could you also speak to current parking conditions?
Yeah, current parking conditions. You saw the gentleman with the retaining wall. So when we purchased the house, the retaining wall was failing. And in order to get a new retaining wall, we had to repair the existing retaining wall. So if in theory, in a new construction, we could extend that. At great cost, destroying what's already there, and then it would also impact the natural area. So again, a trade-off. We have 2 spots today. If you squeeze, you can get 3 cars in there, depending on the size. So we're, again, we're just trying to get back to what we start with the new construction.
Having exhausted all other avenues.
I can't tell you the complexity of 1 step forward, move sideways, move back, move up, side, this, that. I mean, it's
It's supposed to be a relaxing weekend house, Mr. Katie.
Amy, is it I mean, I've lived this for the last 3 years, needless to say.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I hope I've satisfied the requirement of exhausting remedies. I mean,
Yeah, I was
we've
gonna
spent an ungodly amount of money to get to the table today.
Real quick follow-up on Bill's question, even if you, and what you brought up, even if you bumped back the parking, there would not be enough space to do.
We can't.
To.
Correct.
Even if you could, yeah, that's what.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask an add-on to
sure,
your question? This is an add-on to Bill's first question. The way I understand you're saying is, here's your house, and you're saying, well, we could, if we move back, it falls this, but that's if you keep it the same size. What if the house is smaller? If the house is smaller, you don't, and you don't have the problems on the front, if you move that back so that you don't have a problem with the front, this is Virginia, you don't have a problem with the steps or the porch, all of a sudden that goes away, and you haven't had to move back and encroach on your neighbor as you described, Mr. Caden. So I'm wondering, that's all, the problem that you described, unless I'm misunderstanding, exists if you say the house is the house is the house. It's going to be this size no matter what, so we're just sliding this along a track. If the house is perhaps a different size, that might not be true, perhaps. Is that true?
So as it relates to the bulk of the house, so first of all, what we started with was a lot larger home. And it was scaled back immensely. And at the end of the day, what we're looking at is if this is a normal improvement and is it in keeping with the character of the area, and it is. And the condition, the structure that's proposed, a 2-unit structure, a 2-family structure, is a permitted use in R2. And it's a normal improvement, and it is an improvement that previously existed at the property. However, the current state of the home, like I said, is in disrepair. And we think what the Cadens have presented here really is a reasonable improvement, and it's improving conditions. And sure, you could continue to think about how small could the home really get, but then the home itself then perhaps becomes undesirable. And that's why I said that the Cadens have thought through that. This really is the minimum acceptable to them. And if they can't figure this out, like I said, their next option would be selling. That's the point that they've gotten to, given what Mr. Caden has described as a very long journey to get here, a tough journey to get here. And I think that the record supports that, our testimony supports that, the materials support that. And I hope that answers your question. It may not fully satisfy the desire to have a smaller home, but from the Cadence perspective, it truly is the minimum that they've considered to be acceptable here. And we do believe that
I don't have a
we've-
desire to have
I
anything.
hear you, but
I was just asking.
Yeah,
I was asking where the definition of
Yeah.
that came from, and it sounds like your definition of a normal improvement is this size, and that answers
Yes.
my question. Thank you
Okay.
for letting me jump in, Bill.
No, no, I'm fine. I have no further questions.
Thanks.
I have, I guess, a comment. When we bought our house, there was a rear cottage, but the rear cottage was a foot on my neighbor's property. It had been there since probably the 20s or 30s. And it was the same kind of thing. We wanted to move it so it met the city code, so 4 feet over and all that stuff. The problem was when East Coast came and they picked it up to put it on their rungs or whatever they do, anyway, it started to fall apart. And the city wouldn't let us, if we let it fall apart, then we couldn't move it. We lost our cottage, essentially. So we duct taped, actually, East Coast did it. They duct taped the whole thing together because all those kind of things, they were familiar. I said, oh my God, I've seen those descriptions of these 100-year-old. Anyway, and they moved it onto a foundation on the property, which the city allowed us to do, and then we could rehab it and remove the duct tape and start over again. We no longer have the cottage because we ended up taking down the main house, and then you lose your cottage in an R1 area, and that was okay. We didn't care. But we had it for a number of years, and so I totally understand you cannot always move something. I mean, we see them all over Rehoboth, moving things. They used to move cabins into town and all, all years ago.
It's
So,
amazing what they can move.
it is
yeah,
absolutely amazing.
but
And
they've
then
decided.
they would take down the light poles at night, the telephone wires and all. Anyway,
Sure.
so I understand that, and I truly understand why you can't move it. Having been through the same thing myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Any other questions?
No, as I say again, I love banisters. So
Edie?
and I have
We'll
no
keep the
problem-
banisters.
And I have no problem with the steps at all.
Thank you.
I do have a few more questions. Mackenzie, I'm looking at your letter here.
Yes.
And you say on your page 2, top of the page, in March 2020, the applicant purchased a Unit B and subsequently became aware of the full extent of the structural issues affecting their home. Well, what kind of due diligence was done in 2020?
Could you please speak to the due diligence
Before
that
you
was done
purchased the
prior to
property.
the purchase?
Through standard home purchasing, we had a building inspector come out, inspected the property, and gave us a report about the condition of the property. So we were aware of some of the issues.
Is it accurate to state that you weren't aware, though, that it could not be repaired?
That's correct.
And how did you become aware of that? I know we've already spoken to that, but just to be clear, for example, for Mr. Davidson's work or et cetera,
Yeah.
that it could not be repaired and had to be demolished and rebuilt. Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so again, most things can be repaired. We've been homeowners in the city for over 20 years in different houses. And so we've seen the houses lifted, and we thought that would be a viable option in order to repair the basement. But during that inspection, when Mr. Davidson came out with Oak Builders, they actually took a shovel and dug underneath the corner of the foundation and discovered that there were no footers built.
And this is before you purchased the property?
No, this was after.
Okay, so I asked you what pre-sale due diligence you,
Sorry, Mr. Townsend.
There was a home inspection that was
Right.
performed, but a structural inspection is something different.
right, I do know that. I do know
And
that.
it would not be typical for a structural inspection to take place prior to a closing. I mean, it's not prohibited, but it would be an unusual circumstance.
Right.
It would require you to know in advance that you've got
But we're talking about, at that point, it was about a 90-year-old house That's because you're saying it's about 100 now. So I was just wondering what kind of precautions you would take with coming into a structure that's 90 years old.
Yeah.
And you've answered.
Yeah, for
okay,
the record, we had a certified building inspector inspect the property.
Okay. And Mackenzie, you say on that same page, the fourth paragraph, it's important to note that the Caden home currently encroaches into the front and side yard setbacks. Why do you feel it's important for us to know that?
To understand that we're improving, at least with respect to the side yard setback, the current condition. So we have eliminated at least one of the encroachments with this proposal into the side yard.
FAR too, is that?
Well, also that, but as it relates specifically to Ms. Herron's question, that is why.
Okay. Let me see if I had anything else here. So on your next page, on page 3, the FAR.
That's not accurate.
No, I know,
Right,
but
yeah.
I know you've attested to the fact that you match Corey's staffs. I understand that, and thank you for doing that. So what I understand, unless I'm incorrect, and I'd like you to help me, is with the FAR, you're essentially asking for an almost 50% increase in the FAR. I calculated as,
FAR's reduced.
So we're actually reducing the FAR overall.
no, but it's still.
But it's still in excess of the code
We're-
requirement,
right,
but
which-
it will always be, anything that's built here, but
It would be, yeah, but it would be 47% and change more. And on the minimum parking spaces, you're asking for double what's required, correct?
I think it's
So-
the inverse, probably 1/2 of.
yeah, half of what's required.
No, you're asking for 4 spots when,
We're asking for 2
oh, you're
spots,
asking for 2,
and there's
okay.
required
But
4,
we're required, you're right, thank you. for
which
the-
is the current condition.
Right.
Yes.
So you're asking for, for us to essentially grant half rather
To
than.
maintain, or in our words,
grant
to maintain,
half,
yeah,
once
the
again,
status
half.
quo.
And on the setback, out of 10 feet, you're asking for a 4.54 foot relief. So again,
As it relates to the porch.
almost half, you're asking for 50% more. And on the structure, in required yards, you're asking for 5.6 feet beyond the 2 feet that's given.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yes.
So that's a several 100% increase, almost 300% increase that you're asking for. So those are the things that I understand that you're asking for to be specific.
That's correct, and we believe, as the testimony reflected today, and as the materials reflect, that we've satisfied the quick check criteria and that the proposed improvements are in character with the immediate vicinity and are considered to be normal improvements.
Thank you for the clarification and verification. I appreciate, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Edie. Rick, you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but just one comment. Thank you as well for a very well-put-together presentation.
Thank you.
And I think in combination with what Corey and Building and Licensing did, it's probably one of the best records that we've seen come
Right.
across our desks.
Right.
Thank you.
I was sitting here thinking when I saw this material, this is, I agree with Rick, one of the best, the Grottoes Hotel. I was so impressed with their architects, people coming, that this is right there with them.
Yeah, the Grottoes Hotel was probably prior to this.
Way up there, very well done. We've had people come here and just go, what do I do? What do
We're
I
okay
do?
with being second best
So
now.
these are compliments.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. I mean, I don't know if the comments are going to close, but working with Corey, Lisa, Mike, the arborist, Sherry out front, I mean, I've had extensive public sector experience. It's part of my professional career, and being a citizen working with the city employees has been nothing but a professional, excellent, well-done job, where maybe there were some decisions that we didn't agree with, but the staff, the city of Rehoboth staff is just amazing and incredible. So I want to make sure the record reflected that, from our perspective.
I'm sure they appreciate it. Thank you. All right, I get to ask a couple questions here. Did you consider an R1 home in the spot?
One-unit home.
You're allowed to build an
Yeah.
R1.
When I talked about the chess game, the R1 created a bunch of other challenges. So maintaining an R2 was the most practical response.
Okay. In your presentation, you said the elevation change was a challenge, which I would agree, but it's not a hardship, correct? I mean, the change in elevation has
I
always
would say
been there.
that's an exceptional and practical difficulty, the existing conditions on the site. However, as it relates, really what's our hardship here? We've been thinking really as it relates to the fact that just the existing condition of the lot. This is so unique with the existing homes, but the exceptional practical difficulty would be the structural the structural issues, the
construction.
topographic. Yep.
Yeah.
And then really the hardship, which we at least have tried to couch, and as it relates to FAR really specifically, is just that it's entirely consumed by the other property owners. So that's really we consider that to be the most challenging issue.
I mean, just a commentary, when you read the material for the first time, you look at the FAR and you're like, oh, man.
Yes.
Right? But when you look at the photos of the property, and we all understand why the FAR is what it has become.
Right.
You know, the McMansions. This
Yes.
is
This isn't that.
this is a cottage.
Yes.
You know? So, okay, and you answered the question about the basement space.
Yes.
I still think you could have gotten 333 square feet more, but that's not here. That was good. Don't need that one. Don't need that one. Or did you ever get acknowledgement from Unit A and Unit C owners? I mean, they're not here today. Did they send letters in support?
There's no letters.
Okay, and you
We did
attest that
submit,
they're,
we did actually submit
Talk to 'em?
correspondence that Mr. Caden had emailed the neighbors so that was in the record as well, just to confirm, and not just us saying so. There's an email correspondence that was sent to them.
okay, and you'll attest that they're okay with, I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could be against them in the future, you know?
Right.
Okay. I mean, they have to live, I was,
It's a
I
unique
even had a question
situation.
is,
Well,
It's a
the-
unique
Yeah,
situation.
the unique situation, and if we lifted the house, that imposed dramatic impact to the neighbors. Dramatic impact, because I could go on and on and on, but I'll be brief. They have a brick driveway. We collapse the brick driveway if we put heavy equipment on it. We can't get through between the fence and the retaining wall and the house. So we were,
Cognizant of the
I mean,
neighbors,
this,
neighbor
again, this is
conscious.
so complex that the things that we did to land here, it was
I was gonna
three-dimensional chess.
I'll make a comment, maybe I'm out of balance here, but hopefully you pay the least amount of taxes.
No, we split it equally.
Actually split,
You're a nice
thirds.
guy doing that, okay. Okay, they were all my questions, and at this point, well, I was gonna say come back.
Because I was a follow-up to yours, because I was going to ask this. When I identified where these, your letters came from of support, and they were 34 Virginia, 36 Virginia, and 30 Virginia, but again, not 33 or 35, which are your absolute cohorts on waterside properties. And there's no reason that you know of that they were not willing to attest to your thought, or you have had no reaction with that from them?
I think he already answered that. And I would also say that, there's no demonstrated opposition from them either, which I'll
Right,
just point out
right.
for the record.
So you had 6 letters of support, and 3 were from Virginia Avenue, great, but the others were from Scarborough, Stokely, and King Charles. So they must be good friends to do that for you. But they wouldn't have the day-to-day information necessarily about ins and outs and living in that environment necessarily. But it's the letters were impressive, and we're grateful for all of your associates who did that. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Any final questions? Okay, last chance, and ask your family if they want to speak, or a chance before I close down the public. Okay, thank you. All right, we're closing down the public portion of this presentation. We may have a follow-up question for you, and we will start the deliberation among the board members. I can start, or if anyone in the board wants to start. All right, in reading this, like I said, my first reaction was the FAR, it was like, oh, geez, wait a minute. And then I looked at it, and I just said, in my mind, this is very reasonable. I absolutely see the exceptional practical difficulty here. They just simply want to rebuild this, in fact, smaller. Odd things that stuck in my mind, like I'm okay with the FAR. It's being reduced. It is above. How this lot got the way, that's history in the city. I was a little concerned about the parking. That was the only thing that concerned me, but there's no place on this lot to put any additional spots, so I think we have to be kind of lenient. I even was thinking in my mind, well, maybe they can just park at the dead-end section of Virginia and the city would leave them alone, but that's...
I think that's a park.
Well, anyway. So, I mean,
It's Cranberry
my thoughts to the board here is I do see the exceptional practical difficulty here. They've gone through a lot. Looks like they've done everything to try to rebuild it. I mean, I'm looking at this house, I'm like, lead paint, I'm wondering, hopefully, oh my God. So I do think we have an exceptional issue here, and the applicant, I would be thinking in favor of granting variances to allow them to rebuild this. I mean, knock me down, support me on that, or thoughts?
I completely agree with you. I think there are a lot of factors here that point to the exceptional practical difficulty. It's not of your making. It is the unusual circumstances of this particular parcel of land and its zoning and use. Clearly, excuse me, the structure itself appears to me to be close to unsafe for habitation. And so I understand the need to do something, and the practical limitations that the property imposes with respect to number of parking spaces and things of that nature, you really don't have much in the way of options. I think looking at it from the standpoint of the character of the neighborhood, I think what you're proposing is in keeping with that. And I think looking at it from the perspective of the city as a whole, what you're proposing is, at the end of the day, more in keeping with the overall character of the city that we want to preserve. I thank you for putting up with this for so many years. I know you've been through many iterations because I followed it in the press and whatever. So I'm, and just as the chair indicated, I'm favorably disposed to granting the variances.
Edie, any thoughts?
Yes. I'm of a very mixed opinion. I think the nature of the zone is met if we go through our quick check factors, and consistent with the character of the area, yes. But not seriously affecting the neighbors, I think we might have a balancing act here. The parking density is an issue. That street is impossible. So if somebody or some buddies are going to have to park somewhere else. It concerned me that A and C didn't respond about parking or anything else. If I was part of a triumvirate, but I can't judge what other people do, but it just is a question. I should say it's a question for me. So the parking is an issue. Let me see what I said here. And then the exceptional practical difficulty, again, I totally agree with my colleagues here that the structure seems to need to be replaced. It seems to be in terrible shape. It can't be repaired. So I agree that East Coast Structural, it looked like that was a very professional evaluation that was made. And so, but I still go back to, this property was bought in 2020, and the owner's due diligence at that point with a 90-year-old property, I don't know. Again, that sounds judgmental on my part.
Now, I'd argue that. I
Okay.
went back to when I purchased my house here. Sure, you get a building inspector, or sometimes in today's world, people don't get them, they just buy them. But to get a structural engineer, I think that's, and to know, and you know, shame on me as a buyer for not knowing details of the city code, you know, that I would have had to rebuild a house. So I kind of feel for the applicant here on this case.
I do too.
Yeah, it's tough, but the structure failing,
But with the balloon contracting, or with the balloon construction, when you read about how that works, with no,
well, it's certainly a hazard.
right, with
yeah.
a hazard, and you would, anyway,
I can speak from personal experience because I bought a home in Chevy Chase, Maryland that was built in 1914.
Okay.
It passed inspection, but I didn't know until I started doing renovations that
Right.
the floor joists were about to collapse.
right.
You had an incident, too. So if I could chime in here, too.
Yes,
we're-
please.
We are, our focus needs to be, from a priority point of view, on the property and the
Right.
challenges.
Right.
And not the identity of the owners.
Agreed.
So if it wasn't the Cadens, it could very well be the prior owners who would come forward.
Right.
And if the Cadens were to sell, it could be somebody else. It's the challenges that are faced by the property owner that either justify,
Right.
in the best case scenario, the granting or the denial of.
But our
Can I add
variances, as
something,
we
Edie?
know, but our variances don't, I'm sorry, did you want?
Yeah, I think these are public hearings. I think you're leading people in the wrong direction,
Okay,
so I want to say something.
sure.
Even if they had gotten the report and the place was falling down, you know, for all the reasons that Mr. Caden said, you know, you want somebody to come in and spend a lot of money to fix it.
Right,
So I don't want to say to potential buyers in Rehoboth, if you get a report that says place is falling down, don't bother to buy it, because the BOA is not going to understand the fact that we have 100, 150-year-old houses in a really tough environment. You know, as we all know, all of us who've got air conditioning units outside, and Sherman comes and says, it's amazing this thing is still up. And you say, well, you only put it up 6 years ago. They said, yeah, have you seen salt? So I don't want to say to the Cadens or anybody else, if you know that the thing is going to require a variance, don't bother to do the work before you buy it, because we're going to count it against you. So I disagree with where you're going on it. Even if they had gotten structural, look, we know from the sandcastle that you had a professional firm not realize
Right.
that they had a building that was about to collapse in City Hall, or the firehouse. So I don't want to send a message that if you've done the work, you realize that you're going to need a variance, that there are a lot of things you're going to have to fix. I don't want to discourage people from doing it, because I think we all agreed that house is going to fall into the lake. And we don't want that, nor do we want the Cadens to sell it, because frankly, given the history now, I don't know why anybody would buy it
right.
without coming to us first and getting some approval that they're in fact going to do it.
We would be right back here again
Right.
with the future.
Well, what I was
Yeah.
moving towards was
Yeah.
the fact that no matter what had occurred in the past with the, don't mean to have my back to you, with the owners, our requirement is always to protect the land. And so what makes sense to go forward with this triumvirate property, what can we do that makes sense with one unit where the others are going to be affected right away in some form, because if they want to do something, they're going to have it's the same triangle. If C or A want to do something someday, is there a way for us to structure something that can move forward with the property and not deal, because we know the city wants less property density or less structural density. That's why it has these buffers, the side yard and the front yards and all that. And the strictures that it has. So if we grant variances, we're going to obviate some of those.
Yeah, but haven't they, as McKinsey said, they're proposing a structure that's got less FAR than the current one.
Yes.
So, to the extent that we're setting a precedent, for any of these odd-shaped properties or ones that have got leaseholds on it, what you're doing here is that it's less dense than what was there. It's got less property coverage than what was there, and I think that they've done the minimum. They're asking for the minimum amount of variance. Given that this is, as I said half an hour ago, this is a law school exam. I didn't really like property law that much anyway, so. But that's really what this thing is. It's a great law school exam and zoning effort. And my own view, this is why the BOA exists,
Right.
to be really honest, because we're trying to take a bunch of rules the city has done and then apply it to a property plat that nobody would create, given what the zoning rules are today.
Right. And zoning is moving toward, it's like an evolving, it's an evolutionary process for the city to move towards evolving compliance is what we hypothetically are moving towards as a city. So, but still, I'm wondering, how do we structure something for a three-pronged property where A could come next year and say, we want to do X, Y, Z. I'm not saying it's anything against these people, because we have to follow the land. So how do we structure something?
Well, but if I may?
Of course.
I don't think we need to structure anything per se. I think the mere fact that the end result here is a reduction in FAR, a reduction in gross floor area, and more natural area than they had before provides the latitude, to whatever degree it may be, somewhat de minimis.
Okay.
But if A or C want to come in with a variance request, they have more flexibility at the end of the day once this, if we were to grant these variances, there's more flexibility than they would otherwise have if everything remained status quo.
And they would have to establish an exceptional practical difficulty, and they might be unable to demonstrate that they can't repair the property in the same way that the Cadence can.
But are all of the, and this is a rhetorical question, are all four variances as necessary as each other? Or are some absolutely, do we feel some of them are absolutely should be granted and some could be tweaked?
That'll be up to the board.
I understand. That's why we're having this open discussion, and I'm asking that question
Okay, well, Jan?
of my colleagues.
Jan?
I have a question. I'm not a question. We've owned 3 houses in Rehoboth. The first one was an old sub shop, moved to a lot on Sussex Street, probably in the 50s. It's still there. We added a second floor to it when we bought it. It is still there. I met the people who live there, and they're still living in it, and nothing has changed. Our second house was built in the 20s on Olive Avenue, and we never had a structural inspection on anything. And it's still there, and people are living in it. And in fact, at one point, somebody told us that it doesn't have metal in it. The oak timbers were like concrete. They had aged so well. And then the last house we bought, it had this cottage on the back. It had plumbing, it had electric, it had a washing machine, it had a bathroom, it had everything in it. But it didn't matter because we didn't know what was underneath it, and neither did our inspection. And our lawyer was somebody who probably everybody in this room, most of the other lawyers in this room know. And so you can't find everything in advance. My sense is on this house is that I've watched that end of Virginia Avenue get constructed. I've watched that god-awful thing that happened across from you, and watched the water go down in the street, and the destruction of the trees, and the taking of the hill and all that, which was approved, and no Sussex Conservation brought in to look at the flow of water on the land, and how it impacted everybody in the neighborhood. The other two houses are relatively new houses. They have all had some work done on them, as they say. I saw the one with the swing, and I think, I have to agree with Rick and Barry that I think this is a good thing to do for the city. And I'm not too inclined to give variances, as some of you know. But I do think this is, it's a no-brainer to me when I looked at it, and when I had a lot of conversations with people who've been in government for a long time. This has been like this, longer than the former mayor, who was mayor forever, can remember. It was like that, forever. And I think it's time to fix that mess. I actually know somebody who rented your basement and had to leave. They couldn't stay there. So, anyway, we've had not much rain this year, so.
I have to, Corey, real quick question. Was it explored to shift the whole thing to the west? And give this property a long driveway like Unit A has?
But that's Lake Gerard Park.
No.
When you say the west, away from
Shift
the
it.
ocean, that's
Shift the house to
towards,
I'm just curious. Shift the house to the west to the limit and give them a long driveway between A and B. I was just curious. Had to be some other reason why that didn't happen. But I'm like, wait a minute. Couldn't they have gotten a driveway just like?
Do you mean the new house?
Yeah.
that's where the retaining wall is
Yeah.
right now.
Too much.
The,
Curious.
no, that wasn't, not to my knowledge, explored.
I was just like, wait a minute.
One of the things that it was thought about while we're talking about natural is trying to keep as much green space between the house and the buffer around
Yeah.
the lake and the lake as
Yeah.
you can. The more green space we can keep,
That makes sense.
this way the house pretty much stays where it's at. They can work with the flow of water, stormwater management, and we are not shifting more impervious structures in that direction.
Right. Okay. But I would say if they get the variances and they want to, and that works, then, that's up to you. Okay. Anyone for a motion or more
question.
conversation?
Corey gave a very specific language for the variance.
Right.
Is that correct? Is that what this last paragraph on your, I think it's the last
Correct.
paragraph?
I believe so.
Should the board grant any variances? Staff notes.
Yeah.
Is that how the staff is thinking from your perspective, you want this motion to be?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
this also is only, again, the motion would be only for Unit B. However, that's legally defined.
So, yeah, that's what that language guarantees, is that because there's so many different sides, rears, and
That's what I'm making-
structures and everything, that language will make it
protected.
clear if
Thank
it's
you.
attached to the motion that we're talking about the Caden property and not something
Okay.
else.
Maybe it's just a matter of changing the first few words. Instead of should the board,
All right,
a motion of the board,
okay.
but
All right, and I don't know, Bill, if I make a motion that just does this, he's sitting next to me, Fred, or I would,
No offense taken.
Okay. Okay, all right.
give it a
I'll
shot.
make a motion
I
then.
mean, just to be clear, I was trying to make sure that we were having a full discussion. That's right. I know.
It's
All the
okay.
points, positive and negative. As you know, I like to be a catalyst if I can be, so.
We know.
And maybe I shouldn't try to do that, but it seems.
no.
It seems
Oh, my
like
God, no.
we bring out, I'm trying to bring out all of the sides of
We
everything.
don't-
That's
to
why
make
we
sure-
let you talk first, Edie.
And we don't always agree on
Well, and that's
everything.
fine.
Yeah,
That's
fine.
absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine.
All right. I move that we grant a variance to Unit B on, what even street it is, Virginia Avenue. And that granting this variance, that the relief be framed by reference to the recorded documents, the Axiom Engineering LLC variance site plan, sheets VAR-1 through VAR-8, revision 3, dated June 18th, 2026, and the staff verified calculations in this report, together with any conditions the board attaches, which I don't believe we are, will provide a fixed basis for permit review. Where the revised plan labels conflict internally, staff's independently verified figures control, consistent with the treatment applied throughout this report.
Okay, my only,
I also
go ahead.
will add that certainly quick check exceptional practical difficulties is more than covered in this case.
And my only amendment to your statement, you said variances,
Oh,
plural.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
variances.
okay.
And
Do
don't
we
we,
need to recite each of the 4
Yeah.
variances
So
that are
just for the
requested?
record, I could do that
and
quickly.
excuse me, don't we need the address of the property? You said Unit B, you did not give the address
Well,
of 37.
I think that information is on those plot plans.
Okay, I didn't know, because all she said was Unit B, and I didn't know if we need to add 37 of Virginia Avenue. 37.
Do you want me to add 37 Virginia Avenue?
37 Virginia Avenue is the.
Oh, okay.
Add the specific variances for
All
the
right, I'm
record.
going to add for 37B Virginia Avenue, the very specific variances they're seeking. A variance from the
We have a
combined,
question?
Just one other comment, maybe instead of saying this report, the building inspector's report.
okay. I take that,
Yeah, we have a lot of reports in this application.
good.
so-
okay.
Very good.
Thank you, Corey. The applicant seeks a variance from the combined floor area ratio, FAR, 270-21B, a variance from the minimum parking spaces required, 270-35D, a variance from the front yard setback for proposed porch, 270-24, and a variance from the front yard setback for proposed steps, 270-42.
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 All right, now we're going to go through in detail as to why we support the motion. I'll start with you, Rick. Sorry, I can go in the middle
there's the
once in a
mic.
while.
Yeah. As I stated earlier, I believe that this particular applicant has demonstrably shown that there is an exceptional practical difficulty that is largely driven by the unique topography of this property and the unique nature of the parcel as an R2 with 3 individual units. And that the overall effect of the requested variances is a net positive, in my view, from the standpoint of bringing this particular unit into closer compliance with the city code, and that it fits with the character of the neighboring properties, and I do not find that it imposes or threatens in any way the neighboring properties. So I think that they have made, under the quick checks variance criteria, that they have met they've met the standards.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Edie?
Yeah, I support the motion. I think the nature of the zone is met without even thinking about it, as is the consistent character of the area, numbers 1 and 2. Number 3, not seriously affecting the neighbors. I still have a bit of a concern about the parking, but that's going to have to be what it is. Exceptional practical difficulty, I too feel that it's being met by a number of factors. The unique topography of the property, the 3-owner situation, of which the Cadens have no overriding control, and the age and condition of the of the proper, of Unit B, as we have had it shared with us. So I think it meets the exceptional practical difficulty, and it also, as Rick alluded to, it keeps us moving towards the city vision of evolving compliance towards all of the code that makes sense. So I'm in support.
Well said, Edie, thank you. Jan?
Do you want me to repeat everything, everybody?
You know, you could say you agree with Rick.
I agree with what both Edie and Rick have said.
I do as well.
All right, and I too vote for approval of this motion. Meets all the quick check factors, agree with what Rick and Edie said as well. So this is approved. Thank you so much for bearing with us here.
Thank you so much.
Great presentation, great building inspector report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
All right,
nice
good luck on the
rest
build.
of the afternoon.
Thank you.
you.
All right, let's move on. Quickly close out. All right. Any other business? I don't think anyone has anything.
Do we have a case for next month, as far as
That's
we
the
know?
question.
Yes, there are two cases
Okay.
for next month. One is the One Rehoboth Hotel.
Okay.
One
One
Rehoboth.
Rehoboth
Which
Hotel
one is that, the garage?
on the
Right.
north side. The,
Thank you.
Hi, good luck.
Grotto Hotel, right?
The garage.
that one will be regarding the code requirement for a 24-foot drive aisle.
Okay.
24-foot what? I'm sorry.
Drive aisle.
For the
For
parking
for circulation with,
AISLE.
Yeah.
drive aisle, for
No new
circulation
island.
within the parking of the One Rehoboth Hotel.
Okay, thank you.
And the second one is a residential property, 259 Country Club, for parking. It is an existing dwelling. They're doing major renovations and an addition, which would trigger off-street parking. Currently, there is no off-street parking. Hardship will be the trees that are existing currently in the front yard.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And
Thanks, Corey.
may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And Marco, thank you.